Hi, everyone. Kelly here. Today, I'm chatting with Alyssa Martin from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, a phenomenal voice instructor and vocal empowerment coach. And Alyssa and I are going to be talking about how she changed her weekly teaching hours to private teaching. And as a result, was able to grow her revenue by over 5.5 times over the last year, which is just incredible. It's been a really, really fun journey, but I want to kick it over to you first, Alyssa. Just tell everyone a little bit more about yourself, your teaching. Obviously, you have a very unique studio. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Awesome. So good to be here, Kelly. So, my studio is a blend of life coaching and vocal lessons. So, I really love to work with people that are having confidence issues. Um, Maybe they need some techniques, whether it's with positive thinking or with the actual vocal skills. And so, kind of blend that together, and that's the vocal empowerment lesson.
That's awesome. This is something that when we first started talking about, we were trying to shape this a little bit still and figure out is it, separate sessions? Is it all in one? What does this look like? So, what does a typical session look like now for your students? And obviously, it's different for everyone, but in an average lesson, how does that usually look?
Yeah, it does look a little bit different depending on because I have different, they can work with me for a half hour a week or 45 minutes or an hour a week. And so, regardless of the time, we're always going to do a check in. How are things going? Did you do your homework this week? Why or why not? It's all very loving and supportive. And then we get into some breath exercises, vocal exercises. I have my keyboard right here. And then I have them sing a song that is really something that speaks to them. And I would say that is sort of what makes me a little bit different from some of the other singing teachers that I've recognized that there might be a repertoire that they really want the students to grow in a certain direction, and where I want to really find out where my student wants to go. And so I do guide that in a way if I see something that could help them out, like a song or a technique or something that could help them out for where they see themselves. But I really want to work with them to find out what their dream is, what their goals are, and then really set up all the sessions to support them in that.
That's awesome. I know a lot of your students are coming to you not only with a specific concern, but sometimes it's more of a general, I just am shy and I'm looking for this to impact my life outside of music. It's a pretty broad stroke for a lot of your students, and it's exciting to see the growth that can come out of that. I know we talked about a lot of the results, so we can certainly highlight some of that when we're talking about this today too. But this is a more unique offering, and it's also a, a specific niche, and at the same time, it's able to serve a lot of people, which is really exciting. So let's talk a little bit more about the studio before all of this, because like I said, when we first met, now just a little over a year ago,
Yeah.
you were not teaching vocal empowerment lessons, at least not in the same way. What were you doing about 12 months ago?
So I was working 2 nights a week for a multi teacher studio that has multiple locations. And I had 5 students slash clients. So I had one vocal empowerment student, and the rest were singing lessons, life coaching, and it was just a little bit of mishmash. But most of my teaching was for school.
Got it. And when we were working in that school, it was an exciting environment. You liked working there. It was a really, really good place to
Yeah.
be. And at the same time, we were looking to make a little bit of a change. So why was that? Because it was a place you were happy. Why were we looking to make a change?
Looking to make a change because I felt like I was sitting on a really good idea
Mm,
that, I would have my students at the school come in, and again, first thing they do is a check-in, and they would spill the tea or spill their guts. And it really came clear to me that they needed the touch of the life coaching, whereas my life coaching clients that I saw outside of the school really needed to use their voice and listen
yeah.
to their inner voice. So I felt like I was just sitting on a really good idea. I knew that I had joined the school because after getting certified as a life coach, I ran into so many kind of uh, what I call like banging my head against the wall, trying all different types of things to find clients, to sign them, to keep them, um, and see them and help them see why working together for a long time would be a really good benefit. And so when I started working for the school, I was like, huh, thank goodness I show up. Someone else is talking about how much lessons cost and did you send payment and all of that.
Yep.
All I did was show up and get to do what I love. And so something inside me said, okay, I've been here in this situation for long enough to know and to gather the courage to say there's got to be an answer out there that I can learn that too.
Mhm.
That I can learn how to have those conversations. I didn't know where to turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's scary making this change because again, you're in an environment that you like, you're working with teachers that you like, you're working with administration that you like, and at
Yes.
the same time, you're trying to harness your own creative energy. And
Yep.
again, not that working for a studio or a school wouldn't allow you to do that. That's not at all the point of this change. It's just finding the ability to take a little bit more ownership of that and independence and that creation is exciting for a lot of musicians. So, okay, we're trying to start something new. We're trying to build a new program. We're trying to figure out how that all works and what it could look like to maybe eventually transition out of your current work environment. What were some of the frustrations that you're running into? Obviously, marketing is one of them, but what are some of the things that we were not as thrilled with in our teaching at that time?
One of the biggest things was my package that
Mm.
I was offering was a 4 lesson or session package, and that could be used over, let's say, however long it took. So say they canceled this week, well then that lesson then could go, it could take someone 2 months
Yeah.
to go through all the 4 lessons depending
Yeah.
on their schedule and whatnot. And I didn't have a policy in place,
Mm.
so that was a little frustrating. And again, I didn't really know how to have those conversations, as really wanting to envelop the loving spirit, the supportive spirit. Oh yeah, you can't have your lesson this week. I totally understand. I'll see you next week. That was my go-to.
Yeah.
And just not knowing how to embody in a different way, like the business owner. So that was one of the frustrations. Another frustration would be like, okay, 4 sessions are done. We're going to take a little break now. I'll call you when I'm ready to start again. And like, oh my goodness, we're not on the phone or we're not in session. So now how do I communicate that we were having success, and would you like to keep building on that
Yeah.
success? Because here's what's possible for you. So I sort of knew, oh, I would like beat on myself and be like, Alyssa, you obviously didn't do a great job in the beginning on saying
Mm.
like what's possible for you over time and like help them see what's going on here. And it's not a 1 month solution or a 4 session solution.
Yep.
So again, felt like frustration is the word. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's hard too because it's not just impacting at this point your finances because there isn't regular income. It's very unsteady and unstable.
Yes.
At the same time, it's impacting your student success because there isn't that consistency. So you know what's possible, but once they start feeling a little better or a little bit more confident, they're like, "Oh no, things are going well. I got this now. I'm totally fine."
Right.
And it can be a little frustrating. This happens in music lessons standalone too, but I think it's almost exacerbated in this environment because it is a personal development. And so when you feel better, you think you just don't need the help anymore. And that's a very normal reaction for a lot of people. So no one can meet expectations if they're not outlined up front. So having the initial conversation, like you said, and then checking in on those expectations ongoing, including when they might want to pause lessons, is a really important piece of the puzzle. So backing up about a year ago, you've got the idea, you've got the frustrations, then we come into contact. Do you remember how we met?
I absolutely do. I absolutely, it was kismet because, again, I am a big believer in like setting your intention, and I write a lot, I journal a lot about, and I had been saying like how, like I've worked with other coaches before. I'm a believer in coaches. I'm a life coach, right? But I have had coaches really help me, and then I've had coaches that, were kind of like, let me see you do the work and struggle
Mm.
through, what do you think it should be? And I knew I wasn't looking for that this time. That's
Yeah.
great with like my personal development. This was a professional thing, and I was putting it out there like there's got to be somebody. I had no idea that there was a music business coach out there, but I was in a Facebook group, and somebody had said something and tagged your name about a business music coach or music business coach. And I thought, what? Clicked on you, saw that I could schedule time. I was like, I got to talk to this person. I was, it was an answer to, yeah, my needs.
Well, and I remember when we first met, I was so excited about this idea that you had because it is more unique, but it's also really needed. And you work with especially a lot of young women. It is something that, finding your voice, finding that confidence is something that a lot of young women struggle with. And seeing that progression and the support that you were able to provide is also really exciting for me. So this was a fun passion project to work on together. And I know that we really hit the ground running. That was the first goal, was we got to make some changes. So within the first month, we made a change right away. Not only to your policy, the packages, the tuition, moved things over to a flat rate tuition so that they were paying every single month for
Yeah.
those lessons as opposed to every couple of weeks when they were running out. We kept that pricing at the same amount, but we just moved it to basically a condensed period.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also transitioned a little bit in your schedule. So the goal was never to add a bajillion hours. It was, the time you're working, maybe 10 to 12-ish hours a week, and then a couple private students on top of that. We wanted it to be about the same,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the transition period was also something that we're a little stressed about. And I think this is something that a lot of teachers listening will probably understand if they're looking to try to transition out of a current work environment, even if it's not another studio, they're working full time and they're trying to figure out how you balance this. What did that process look like for you? Because we did it pretty gradually as the studio was growing.
Yes. Like you said, hit the ground running. I remember as soon as I started working with you, it was a weekend, and you're like, "This is your first step, and get it to me tomorrow." I'm like, "This girl means business." So like, because it was on a Saturday, So I was like, "All right, I'm doing it," and so really put into place
Yeah.
a a way for me to speak to, and the packages, really worked hard on getting like the packages together and like playing with that a little bit. I had worked your process of getting some consultations and then trying that out, and then coming back to you with like, okay, this happened, okay, so let's create, because originally I was like, okay, I'm only going to offer these hours. Then it was like, okay, but 7-year olds, and I love to work with the young ones, they don't need an hour. They can't do an hour. So then I created the 30-minute lesson and then the 45-minute lesson. So there was some work there, and that came, like I said, through the process of kind of, I don't want to say trial and error because that's not really accurate, but
We took
going
data.
out
I mean,
there.
that was honestly it, is we took data. And that's the goal, to kind of jump in really quickly, is to
Yeah.
take those numbers exactly like you did. And it was textbook. Like, take those numbers, do 5 to 10 consultations, see what is landing and what's not, and then figure out why it's not landing. Was it the price? Was it the lesson length? That was really the big one. It wasn't your pricing. You have a really high level service. People are happy to pay top dollar for this service, and you get the prices that you're asking for, but maybe we need to be a little flexible on the timing of it. So we looked at that data and adjusted. And then from there, it really clicked.
It
And we
really,
had students joining the studio really fast.
yes. And so when we made that change, then I was like, I I need a day back to add those students in. So I then gave notice to now go down to 1 day a week or one night a week at the school, and had like 2 full days of, when I say full, like you said, I was never setting out to be like so super busy. But a good amount of students for those first 2 days. And then eventually I said, I don't need that final day. And so, yeah, let that day go as well. And just now it's all me.
And what was that timeline? I know we left the first night and kind of pulled back a little bit about a month after we started working together.
Yes.
Roughly when did you completely go independent?
6 months ago.
Wow, it's exciting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's been a change and a transition, but also part of this change and transition, not only in the scheduling and kind of replacing hours and trying to plan ahead for that so that you're not losing an entire night of income overnight, was
Yeah.
to kind of gradually build things in. So this was a extended process. We took our time in this so it was not stressful going at hyper speed and trying to leave the school right away. And also because again, you really like working with them. We didn't want to break rapport. We didn't want this to be something where we were burning any bridges. It was a really, really strong connection that you had. So leaving slowly was also a really appropriate decision in that situation so that we could help them find a replacement and give them time and space to find someone to work with those students as well and also make sure that your students knew what was happening. Anyway, I'm
Yeah.
looping back around after
So true.
that little
It's really
sidestep.
true.
The growth in the revenue, the growth in the studio and in this business, what has this done for other areas of your life?
Oh, it's impacted so many areas of my life, because just the simple fact that I have a dog, and it was so stressful to be like, it sounds silly, but to be like, I have to do all these things for him before I leave the house, and then I'm gone for these amount of hours. And for me, the dream was, I love working from home. I love Zoom. I know not everyone feels that way, but I absolutely love it. It's been great. I live in the Northeast, so there's good snowstorms. There's all kinds of things. Not a worry during the whole pandemic. Not a worry, or the after effects thereof, right? Not a worry. Um, that has been incredible for me. Um, I have so much flexibility financially. I remember like a couple months in, I had to get my car inspected, and I went into the Facebook group. I'm like, Kelly, I was I had to get my car inspected, which is a cost, but nominal. But then they said, you need new tires. And I was like, okay, great. Like, I'm so excited to have fresh new tires on my car. And that was such a change from being like, oh gosh, all right, where, do I have to use a credit card? And then just like that gone away.
Yep.
And I'm giving myself chills because it's just, it's, I always knew it was possible, but I didn't know the how to get
Mm.
there. Um, Also, what's changed? I'm about to go on a week vacation.
Amazing.
And my revenue doesn't stop,
Yeah.
right? Because you taught me the flat fee, and that's great. I just so much like I have, with your guidance, put into place student events on Zoom that before that I couldn't understand. Like, how was I going to create that community,
Mm.
that place for my studio to have like that feel good vibe where everybody gets to see each other and like contribute and really get the jitters out, or experience the jitters and work through them, of singing to each other. And so I have a Halloween recital coming up November 4th. And so I'm really excited about that. So much has changed, both in the business and, like I said, in the finances and the personal life. Yeah.
That's awesome. Let's talk about a little bit of how we actually got here. I know we talked about the timeline and that transition, but let's talk about the work and what worked really well for you. So, thinking about the top maybe two or three things that really were the most impact in your marketing and in your growth. What were some things that we implemented or some actions that you took that you think just really made a big difference?
One of the biggest differences was my script, like
Mm.
consultation script, and
Mhm.
really coming up, and trial lesson script is really coming up with, and it wasn't easy because I know I would go back and forth with you and you'd ask me a question. I'd be like, oh, I thought I had it. And we would go back and forth with, you're so helpful. It was so helpful because it needed to feel comfortable coming out of my mouth and yet make sense and be student focused and just all these things that I would not have thought of on my own. So that was a big one. Um, and it almost rolls off the tongue nowadays. You know, there are some pieces that I still work through. Um, that was a big part. The other pieces were getting on a music managing database.
Yeah.
So before I'm like, oh, you can Venmo me, you can PayPal me, and how I added up at tax time was just like really like piecemeal here and piecemeal there. And um, some people didn't want an invoice, some people they didn't ask for it, I mean, and then other people are like, oh, send me an invoice. I'm like, send you an invoice. Okay, so now I have to go on a PayPal. So this, and I was using like different calendars.
Mm.
I didn't even know there was a music system out there. You know, maybe other people know about this, but that was a big change for me. And just being able to systemize what the email says when your payment is due, building it into a policy.
Mhm.
The policy is huge because it taught me to, you know, what are my boundaries, and just putting them out there. And this is what the business is. It's nothing personal. This is the business, and this is what's expected, and you're clear on it. And now we can work together so smoothly because what I love to do is the teaching.
Yeah.
You know, being with the student, being with the client, and I know that like that is my sweet spot, and the business and the administration piece, not so much.
Yep. Yep.
Not
It's not the reason that you went into music. It never is the reason that any of us choose to go into music. We choose music so that we can perform, we can teach, we can enjoy the actual artistry behind it all and the fulfillment there. Billing and admin work is not fulfilling for most of us. So it's important to automate that and get it out of the way. Absolutely. Now, one of the things that we worked really hard on obviously was the marketing. So to go out and find all these students. You've added in the last year, I think from where we were to now, we've added about 15 new students.
yeah.
How are we finding them and what did that work look like? Because again, this is not easy. This is not something that happens overnight. What did that process look like for you?
So it looked like creating some pieces of collateral that
Mm-hmm.
really just identified specific information, and going into partnership with other music teachers to help promote each other, cross promote, going into Facebook groups,
Mm-hmm.
finding Facebook groups that were really parent focused and or community focused,
Mm-hmm.
and coming up with wording again that was really student centered benefits about, you know, who I am, what I love to do, and what I'm offering. And then, you know, once I had someone's email, just really having a process to say, reach out about the consultation,
Mm-hmm.
and then if they didn't respond, reach out again, and really work those as if um as if they're people that reached out to me, because they did reach out. And that's kind of what it was, like a mind block too,
Mm-hmm.
was, oh, I don't want to bug them. Well, they'll let me know if I'm bugging them. They'll say I was
Yes.
wrong, I didn't I didn't want lessons.
Yep.
But these are people who reached out about lessons, so it's okay to keep saying, oh, you know, they're probably busy or they're not reading their email or whatnot. So just really getting through a lot of fears
Yeah.
and a lot of, I guess, messaging I had in my head about salespeople and things like that. So really, and then creating those, again, back to the actual meeting of them and finding out what was on their mind. If they weren't like, yeah, we'll sign up right away, which by the way, some people said that and then fell off. And that's data. That's
Yes.
data and
Yes.
information. And so I know I would come back to you and discuss those situations as well as the wins. And you really helped me to understand, okay, well, what's the data mean? Like what's it mean? It may not mean that I love what you said to me the one time about you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And that really stuck with me too, because yeah, it was just a beautiful way to say, that has sometimes that's the way it is.
Yeah. Sometimes it isn't the perfect fit. It isn't the ideal student or it is the ideal situation. And we just have to like acknowledge slash bless and release and move on. And that's okay too. But knowing when to do that is also a skill. And the whole part of the sales process, and you're doing such a good job of articulating the sales process and kind of walking through what it involves. You said earlier that we worked really hard on finding the right wording.
Yeah.
When we talk about sales, it's really just problem solving and making sure that everyone's on the same page and setting those expectations. So it's not a high pressure sales pitch. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is provide just a little bit of education about what it is that you do, what value you bring, and why your service is different than other teachers in the area. So a student can really wrap their head around that.
Yeah.
And then also, they're informed enough to actually ask follow up questions and they know what they're getting into. So they set those expectations, and if it's not totally clear, they can ask. So from day one, we're totally on the same page. It's not about being slick or sleazy or like saying the right words in the right order. It's about saying what really truly feels accurate to you and represents you 100% so that it's you accurately being sold and your experience accurately being sold and represented instead of a canned wording from somebody else or the canned email from somebody else. We want to make it really authentic to you. So thank you for sharing all of that. I know it was a lot of work. We've put insane hours in the last year to make this happen, and you are so focused. So I'm excited for you. I'm proud of you. And I know that you've done just a remarkable job of taking this transition in stride and doing it with grace and a lot of um, gratitude, especially for your previous situation. If you were talking to you a year ago, or maybe someone that's in your position now, the position you were in a year ago, what would you want them to know, or what kind of advice would you think would be helpful for them to have at this point in time?
Oh gosh. That I made the right decision
Mm,
in like, hey, you're making the right decision by, and I knew I was trusting my gut the whole time. Like I said, from the instant I saw that you existed, and then when we started to talk, what really stood out to me was your solid answers and your understanding of what I was looking at. You totally understood what I looked at, and there was no wishy-washy. There was no, well, let me make you struggle and figure it out. Is that I did not want that. I had done that before.
yeah.
And just to invest in yourself, because if it can be done over years and banging your head against the wall, it's just not my style anymore. I'm not into suffering. I'm not into self torture. And I have
What?
tried those things. I have tried those things before as far
Yeah.
as like all these marketing things. And I did make some notes. So I just want to make sure. Oh, I learned how to manage a business without headaches.
Mm.
That's huge for me. I get to do what I love and not have those headaches. I have a repeatable process. Actually, just signed a new student today.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you. When I go on vacation, um, paid vacation, right? Then I come back and I have a consultation set up for then. So they just keep coming in now because I have gotten myself out there. I've gotten the Facebook
Absolutely.
page out there. I've like implemented, I would come to you with an idea like, Kelly, see some music teachers have a Facebook page. Like, what would be the most impactful? Because again, I don't want to waste time. I don't have a lot of energy. I don't have a lot of time to
Yep.
waste on just trying. And so we came up with some really cool things. And so I get to post them and just have the maximum impact for the minimum energy. Um, and so to tell myself that you can do what you love and not be tangled in the weeds. It is possible. And like I said, I sensed it, but I didn't know it like I know it now.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. There's been so much, I mean, the business growth has been one thing. There's been so much personal growth in the last year too. And I feel there's this enormous shift in your confidence and in your decisiveness. And also, as you talked about earlier, in your boundaries, in saying no when that's appropriate too, and not having to bend to what a student needs if it's not the right fit for you and your business, and knowing when to walk away from something. That has been a huge change too. So I'm just so excited and so proud of all of the work that you've done, because it's just
thank
been
you so much.
really, really fun. And also, with all of the challenges, you've always been so positive and so ready to take them on. So I want to commend you for that too, because that's not an easy thing to do, but you've done it and it's been a wonderful year.
Yeah, it has
As a
been.
kind of a parting thought, if someone was really curious about your vocal empowerment lessons, because they
Oh,
are
yeah.
fabulous, how would someone find you if they want to see you on the internet right now?
Alyssa Martin voice.com.
Perfect.
ALYSSAMARTIN voice. .com.
Perfect. And Alyssa also has a ton of other tricks up her sleeve that we haven't even talked about today. She, in addition to her life coaching and vocal empowerment lessons, she does a myriad of other things. So I do recommend checking her out. She's got some other really cool resources for anyone that's looking as well. Alyssa, thank you again for sharing. I know that this was really impactful for those that were able to listen to this today. And I just want to thank you for being so open and honest about the process. For those that have any follow up questions, of course, you know how to reach me. You can obviously comment below or reach out to me directly, but definitely check out Alyssa's website. She's got a lot of cool things going on in the works too. Okay. Thank you all. We will talk to you soon. Thanks, Alyssa.
Thanks,
Bye.
Kelly.